Hey guys, so I just want to do a quick video to talk about these devices, and I wanted to kind of provide all the context about, when the Ox first came out and what people thought, and kind of compare that to the Boss. So when the Ox was first announced, it seemed like this dream device because they basically said, it's an attenuator and it also has digital modeling. And there was a lot of confusion when this device came out because people were really wowed by the digital side. And I think most people thought that that digital side applied to the attenuating side. And that's actually not how it works. So let me basically explain. If you look at these two panels, it's good to think of these as almost two products. There's like the digital side where you can choose your rig and you can, mess with the software. And then there's your kind of analog side. And they're completely two different signal chains. They do not overlap in any way. So essentially you have an analog attenuator and kind of a, digital cab simulation with a reactive load. Now, after everyone kind of understood that, then it was like, okay, I guess that's okay because when I'm recording, and when I'm playing with a real cabinet, I'm using a real cabinet, and okay dokie, right? But the problem is that the analog attenuator has this weird notched, setting, which never really gave me great results, meaning I have the Fried Power Station, which has a zero to, kind of 0 to 10 knob, so I never use this. And the Fried Power Station also has a power amp, which allows you to have an external effects loop. So you have to think about it. This thing, the analog part, to me, missed the mark, even against something like the Fried Power Station. So the goal here was, the dream here was you take like a Plexi, which it doesn't have a master volume, doesn't have an effects loop, and you plug it into this thing, and you get all the digital gridness applied to the analog side. That's what I think a lot of people thought this thing did. It doesn't do that. And that's where I think they kind of missed the mark. So let's talk about the Boss. So the Waza, it's almost like everything you thought this would do, this does. So this has a power amp. You can route external effects into this. So you can use your pedal board into this and it's foot switchable. And the digital side overlaps with the attenuation. So if you don't even have a pedal board, you can use the onboard effects. You have delay, reverb. I went over this in a different video. It even has like a solo boost, so you can set an EQ and a volume setting. So that even if you're recording, you don't have to be gigging. Even if you're recording, you want to record a solo with the same, like I use the SLO. The SLO needs a little bit of a tweak when you're playing leads, just to differentiate it from the rhythm tone. And you just hit this, you're done. It has a 0 to 10 attenuation. There's no tone loss. There's no tone suck. Nothing happens. It's just, nothing bad happens. It's just like a master fader. You can obviously tweak the response of the reactive load with these two settings, low end, high end. It has, the same kind of line outs and headphone jacks and stuff like that. So I don't want to make this a super lengthy video. I don't like really long videos, but one thing I also want to note is that you have the foot switch, which I've discussed in other videos. The Ox had a foot switch output in the back or input in the back, but I guess they never saw it through. Maybe it's for future consideration. The other thing is that the Ox was geared more towards, I think, vintage players. And I think the attenuation was meant to literally crank like an old vintage combo amp and use it in the studio. I think the Ox is really, really, really good, especially for people who want to gig with their amp. It kind of gives you all the, the modern features of something like an Axe Effects, but having your amp, right? And I mean Axe Effects in terms of having like a really good direct sound. It's obviously not as complex in terms of effects and routing and stuff, but who knows what they're going to offer. Maybe they'll offer even more effects down the line. There has not been one update to the aux since it's been released, meaning they don't even have V30s yet. So I also feel like the Boss is better for hard rock and metal. The 412s they have in there are much more aggressive, much more tighter, a lot more punch. I always felt I got this little squishy vintage kind of vibe from the aux. So I just wanted you guys to know the important aspects of why these things are different. Now, for the same price, that's a big deal because the integration of the power amp, the digital, and the attenuation is a huge game changer. This device is amazing because what I do is I sit here in the computer and I have my sound coming through my actual 412 at a low volume, so I get to feel like I'm I'm getting what I would normally want to hear, but I can sit near my monitors and still record. So I have the same signal with the same effects and everything applied to both signals. So that means if my pedal board's going into the Boss, it means whatever effect I have in my pedal board is going to the direct and it's going into my cabinet. So I think that's what you really need to know. In terms of people saying like which sounds better, I mean, I'm gonna say this right now, which I think applies to a million things. You can get a great direct tone from both of these units. You may prefer one over the other. In fact, if you're into vintage tones, you may feel that the Boss makes your stuff sound more modern, or I mean, that's up to your ear. And I think it's almost impossible to do direct A/B comparisons. So, and those direct A/B comparisons always, everyone gets, destroyed when they do those with comments because there's really no way to do that. And anyone would just be doing it, would just be trying to do kind of a little bit of a stunt. I mean, you can get great, we all know this, great guitarists, musicians with good ears can get great tones out of almost anything. And there's far less expensive items on the market. There's, ADA direct boxes. There's, people still use Palmer speaker simulators, the Sur-Reactive Load with the IRs. There's a million things. So it's not like you have to spend $1,300, $1,200 to get a good tone. So I don't want this to be, people to think like, oh, if I don't spend this money. No, you can get a great tone out of anything. But I just think if you want like the Rolls Royce of like flexibility, if you're an amp guy, all right, before we get into have you tried a Kemper or forget all that stuff for a second. If you love your amp and you want to use your amp, and with all the flexibility of modern technology, these are the products that are giving you those options. And I'm really happy that these companies haven't forgotten the amp guys. The Boss Waza is clearly my choice in this arena. It is such an awesome product. I know this is insane. I probably will get another one because I have 20 amps and I like having different setups that I can just plug on. So it's a little disgusting and gluttonous and excessive, but that's how much I love the product. And it would be really cool if they add more effects. Not that it'd just be cool if they had like, a micro pitch or something cool like that. Anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. I try to give honest kind of advice and reviews. I don't, obviously I buy these things with my own money, and, that's why it's important for me to kind of tell you guys how I feel about stuff, because there's a lot of people out there trying to sell you stuff, and I want you to have all the information. All right, see you later.